Welcome to the Teaching Emergent Bilinguals module, a cooperative, learner-centered approach. We have been used to going to school, most of us if we're older, in a teacher-centered approach where the teacher stands in front of the classroom and starts talking. And unfortunately, after about 10 minutes, students' attention is not held. It wanders off. Think about someone who not only is going through that phenomenon when they come into your classroom, but they are also not strong in the English language that they're listening to. After a while, their mind wanders. They think about their country of origin. They think about the morning breakfast that they had or didn't have. Maybe they had some American-style pancakes that morning instead of their usual huevos rancheros, or something like that may be happening. So the focus nowadays is to recognize that the teacher must recognize that the cluster of teachers, all of the teachers that a student comes in contact with, is responsible as a whole for the learning outcomes of the students, but however, the student is the star. The student is the center of the learning behaviors. Through active participation in the classroom, the student is able to pull things together into creating meaning for himself or herself that will enable the student to learn and progress over time. Therefore, the learning objective for this professional development presentation is to help identify strategies that can be applied, analyzed, and evaluated to help those emergent bilingual learners make gains in English language acquisition and application, while at the same time not losing sight of their original culture or language. And in fact, to enable them to share their own culture and language with mainstream children who may have grown up in this country as monolingual English language students or children. At the end of the presentation, you should be able to identify, apply, analyze, and evaluate a few key strategies, of which there are many, that will help your emergent bilingual student or students become fully bilingual over time. So the goals of the learner-centered classroom involve the following. As teachers play an active role in learning as knowledge creators, placing the focus of learning activities on student output and creativity, students come into the classroom with prior knowledge of a language other than English, or even two languages besides the small amount of English they may have come into contact with. Therefore, the teacher needs to apply strategies that help the teacher get to know the student through past experiences and current level of language literacy, get to know the context in which the student has developed, including their family life, cultural background, and life experiences. Likewise, a teacher must also plan lessons that support and encourage knowledge of the student's backgrounds, cultures, and languages, help the student make connections between classroom content areas and their own lives, help the students become engaged in collaborative activities, research, and projects for student success in a particular content area, and gain collaboration from students to work in pairs or groups or the entire class in which they're able to showcase their growing or new expertise in a particular subject. Now, these are the goals that are outlined in the textbook for the class that we're currently involved with. These activities support not only learning but self-esteem, providing formative assessment feedback loops which the teacher can use to modify future units of learning and help the students deepen their level of knowledge while sharing and remaining whole in their cultural and family identity. The following are some of the key strategies or best practices that a teacher can employ. The first one is the most important one, and it is to create a welcoming classroom environment. The second one is to get to know the students, not only their names, but a little bit about themselves. The third is to welcome students' languages and cultures into the classroom by allowing them to speak the language and to incorporate some of the elements of their life into the life of the classroom, such as through the food that they bring, or the clothing that they wear, or some of the customs that they can share. And the fourth strategy is an umbrella strategy that will apply to the other three. And this one involves applying formative assessments to encourage continuous feedback loops to reframe the content as needed. All of these strategies can be used not only by the bilingual focused teacher, but by all teachers in a classroom in other content areas. The first strategy, strategy A, is to create a welcoming classroom environment. In order to increase the self-confidence of emergent bilinguals, it is important to make them feel comfortable in the class. This also helps build a foundation for positive relationships with the teacher and with the other students in the classroom. This will increase the level of goodwill in the classroom and put teachers and other students in their corner, helping foster a supportive environment. The second strategy, strategy B, getting to know the ELL students, involves the following procedures. Number 1, learning how to pronounce the students' names correctly. Being able to greet students with their first name and spelling it correctly on paper will come a long way for the student being able to recognize that the teacher cares about them. Forgetting a student's name or spelling it wrong is really not the best way to start a relationship. Number 2, and this follows from the first, building relationships with the ELL student. It is very important to form relationships with the student whereby questions are asked by the teacher regarding some of the likes, dislikes, interests, strengths of the student. Which leads me to the third one. As we're building a relationship of trust with the student, we're identifying the strengths and interests. Perhaps they tell us what they are, or we're able to see them as they go about their day. And number 4 is ensuring that students have information about activities and clubs. This will allow them to feel like they belong in the school and that they're able to come into the new classroom feeling that there's a place for them after school and also be able to make new friends. The third strategy, strategy C, is welcoming students' languages and cultures. Some of the sub-strategies involve inviting students' cultures into the classroom, inviting students' languages into the classroom, learning more about the resources available to the students in their own language. Perhaps they like a particular author from their home country and they would like to find a book by that author, or different issues like that. And number 4 is ensuring that students see themselves reflected in the classroom. So the classroom should have posters of their home country, maybe some pictures of cultural activities, or just items that will remind them that they're a little bit that they've been able to bring home into the United States. Strategy D, which is the overarching strategy, involves formative assessments. This involves the following: encouraging students to participate in class discussions. It is very important to get students to talk with each other and to begin to speak out loud so that we can also get to know them in this way. Often students are shy, or they are respectful of authority, as in other countries it is a sign of disrespect to speak up in class. It is very important in learner-centered learning and classrooms that the student feel comfortable to participate and that it's okay to make mistakes and to raise their hand and speak up and speak with each other. This is a way that synergy is created and students are able to learn amongst one another. The second strategy is assigning a buddy for support. So identifying a student that will complement the learning of the ELL student will be very important, and having them sit together and participate on projects together. Ideally, someone who is interested in the culture of origin, but also is able to reinforce the language acquisition skills. Someone who is a little less shy and is able to pull out some of the personality of the student so that everyone can get to know them. The third strategy or sub-strategy for this overarching strategy is asking the class how they can help welcome the new students. Letting the students themselves come up with ideas as to how they can make the new student feel welcome. The fourth strategy is helping the ELL students understand expectations in the classroom. So students need to know that things are done maybe a little bit differently here than where they come from, and that even though it's okay to make mistakes, they need to understand what those mistakes might be so that they're able to follow suit. For example, do children line up at the hallway along the wall before entering a classroom, or do students normally, run into the classroom and sit down at their desk? Do they greet the teacher before coming into the classroom? So setting the procedures for classroom behavior will be important, and also expectations for assignments and schoolwork. The fifth item is being attentive to the students regarding any health issues, dietary concerns, or allergies. When they're away from their parents, we become an extension of the home in identifying some of the issues that a student might be going through. Being able to catch these concerns early on will go a long way in being able to address them. And the final sub-strategy is being attentive for signs of culture shock. When students come to a new environment, sometimes they expect to go back home, so to speak, or they might not really understand the full implication of the new experience. And as time goes on, they will exhibit signs of culture shock. It is very important to support them as this is going on.